But now, centrally, in the context of our strategy with respect to the Assad regime in Syria, people are looking to and talking about the financial pressures, frankly, really the only tool that we're applying to try to affect change there. Can you talk to us about what the next steps are with respect to financial pressure and whether or not you think this is going to work?
Yeah, and I'm also going to quibble with the premise of your question. I don't think that in Syria the only tool that we're applying today is financial pressure, but it is an important tool, and it is a tool that we have been, relying upon quite substantially since the uprising, now about a year ago, even more than a year ago, in Syria. We have adopted 3 new sanctions programs on Syria in that period. A sanctions program specifically focused on human rights abuses in Syria, which I should add has led to a number of designations of Syrian officials as well as Iranian officials who have been supporting the abuse of human rights in Syria. A sanctions program focused on Syrian government officials, and then last August a sanctions program focused on the entire government of Syria as a whole, including the central bank of Syria. This effort has been undertaken, again, in conjunction with an effort that the EU has undertaken to apply financial pressure and sanctions on Syria, that Turkey has undertaken to apply sanctions on Syria, and that, I think, importantly, that the Arab League has undertaken. Really, I think for the first time in the Arab League's history, there was a decision to adopt sanctions. Now, what we have been doing, in addition to applying sanctions under our own authorities, and we have designated, I think, close to 50 individuals and entities under the new authorities that have been created over the past year, is we've been working very closely with the EU, Turkey, and importantly the Arab League to improve and enhance the effectiveness of these other sanctions efforts. There was a meeting at the end of April of a working group on sanctions that brought together those, more than, I think, 50 countries attended to talk about how to more effectively implement economic sanctions on Syria. There's going to be another meeting in several weeks here in Washington to follow up on that, where the purpose is to enhance and increase the financial pressure on Syria. And it is having an impact. Again, so the macroeconomic indicators in Syria are much like what you see in Iran. Their GDP in 2009, I think, was growing at 6%. I think the last year declined by 3% and expected to contract 6% this year. Their currency has devalued, I think, 25% on the official rate, and anywhere from 50 to 75% on the unofficial market. Their budget deficit is widening substantially because the sources of revenue for the Syrian government, which are largely oil exports and tourism and taxes from tourism, have almost completely dried up. They're basically not earning any money from their oil or from their tourist industry. That is, obviously on the revenue side they're not earning, and on the expenditure side they're spending money to try and keep inflation down by subsidizing food and fuel, and they're spending a lot of money, frankly, pursuing the violence against their own people. And the combined effect of this is that the economic situation in Syria today is quite perilous. The objective of that is to encourage the business class in Syria to recognize that their future prosperity, the preservation of their wealth, their children's future economic stability depends on Assad leaving power. And peeling away that business community support from the regime is one of the sort of important objectives that we're pursuing through these sanctions.